I used to believe in America. How could I not? The America of my childhood was a sweet dream to dream, a song for the heart and a poem for the soul. The land of the free and the home of the brave, the kingdom of Coca-Cola and Levi's jeans, of MTV and the man on the moon. The empire of optimism that with its light repelled the darkness of the Soviet Union, which had cast its shadow over my country of Finland for generations. But the sweet dream soon turned sour. Came 9/11 and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Came Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay. Came Lehman Brothers, Edward Snowden and Black Lives Matter. Came Donald Trump to make America great again. I am a subject of America's cultural empire. I was raised by American television, movies and video games. I suckled down American thinking and the American way of life like mother's milk from the teat of that mighty cultural juggernaut. In late 2022, I was given the opportunity for the first time to visit America for an extended period. An assignment for the news agency STT brought me to the country's west coast for 5 months. This documentary is my travel journal to America and her people. It is my attempt to find out whether the Americans still have hope in their country and faith in its place in the world, and whether they still believe in the American dream. Above all, this documentary is one colonial subject's understanding of this vast empire of ideas, which for his entire life has colonized his heart, mind and language, as it has done for so many of us. Whether we like it or not, we are all in some sense of the word.
There's no war on homelessness, is there? Nah, no war on homelessness. You know why? There's no money in that problem. There's no money in that problem. You could find a solution to homelessness where the corporate swine and the politicians could steal a couple of $1 million each. You'd see the streets of America begin to clear up pretty goddamn quick. I'll guarantee you that. I will guarantee you that.
My first destination in America is the very beating heart of its cultural empire. Hollywood Boulevard, where American dreams were made. The reality of life in Los Angeles and the rest of California is far from the glamour of movies. Life here slaps you in the face and spits you in the eye.
We need to get rid of all the nasty drugs we have, the fentanyl, the heroin, the speed. It's just demoralizing our streets, our neighborhoods and families. It's just evil any way you look at it. Look, I smoke weed, but I don't sit around with needles in my arm and just doing devious friggin' behavior. We need to get rid of it. I'll go biblical. It says in the Bible that a house that is built upon shaky soil will not stand the test of time. And our cities, our foundation are our streets. And if our streets look like shit, we look like shit, and everything else goes to shit. We need to clean up our streets. When COVID hit, they hoteled up so many people off the streets. They were able to put all these people subsidized into hotels and get them off the streets. That they gave them rooms in hotels, so there is something that can be done about the homeless out on the streets. They're just not doing it.
What is the biggest issue where you live in America right now?
Drugs.
Drugs. Other people would tell you it's homeless, but I believe that most people that are homeless and living on our streets are actually doing drugs and they want to be where they're at. Otherwise, they have to follow rules.
And has the drug issue somehow affected your life or someone you know?
Oh yes, the drug issues have definitely impacted my life because a lot of these people are spending whatever money they get on drugs and living on the streets, therefore, and causing crime. So there are certain things I cannot and will not do because it's not safe to be in certain places. So my life has kind of shrunk.
The Great American Housing Crisis leaves many adrift in the gray area of temporary accommodations, stuck somewhere between the streets and full housing. As I traveled the West Coast, I saw that many people staying in hostels were not travelers or tourists, but working citizens looking for a home.
We have a national housing crisis. People such as myself, that's why I'm here speaking to you. We're in a hostel. I have an income. I have a full-time job. I'm a floor technician. I'm looking for a home to rent. When you go to rent an apartment, a room, a home, there's 37 other people applying for that. So we're battling with each other.
The homeless plight is so bad. It never used to be like this. We've taken on like a third world country attitude with the homeless. I always knew America was looking out for the underdog and the people who were not doing very well. And now America has changed. And I think a lot of people I don't know how to take care of themselves now. People that are unhoused, that are homeless, are sleeping on the streets, and they're not protected from the elements. It's cold when it's cold, it's hot when it's hot. How could they survive like that? They're just zombies walking around, and I thought America was better than that.
All the extremes of American society are visible in a city like Los Angeles. Fabulous wealth and extreme poverty exist within a block of each other. In this country there are no heights to which you can't rise and no depths to which you can't sink.
They need help, and we have to help them. This is what America is about, helping those who cannot help themselves. And that's what made our country great, and it seems to have gone. I don't understand it.
So you think the country is on the wrong track for the future?
I do. Not until we solve this homeless problem. They need help. Some people do not know how to ask for help.
I do not, however, like seeing homeless persons or any persons on the street, especially in America. America is the richest country in the history of the world. But no one should be homeless or living on America's streets. No one.
Americans' relationship to the state is culturally different than that of the Europeans. The American credo is that the state should neither hold your hand nor hold you back. Because of this, much of the social work that Europeans expect the state to handle are in America left to the hands of private charitable institutions. I visited one such organization in the infamous Skid Row neighborhood of downtown Los Angeles, home to one of the largest homeless populations on planet Earth. Here, the Christian organization Union Rescue Mission had organized its annual Christmas event.
We embrace people with the compassion of Christ. We never turn away a family who comes to us in need of shelter. Never turn away a woman. How could we, with so much danger on the street? And we feed 3 meals a day to everybody who lives under roof and everybody who comes to our door for lunch.
And what do you think is the biggest issue facing Los Angeles right now?
Homelessness, no doubt. Skyrocketing street homelessness. There's no metropolis in the country that even has 1/10 of the number of people on the streets that we do, and there's no other metropolis that's ever had as many people homeless in the history of the United States as Los Angeles does right now. There are solutions, and it's called getting people inside immediately, surrounding them with recovery programs, mental health counseling, and then moving to innovative, affordable, immediate housing for 200 and 300 square feet with a bathroom and a kitchen, rather than waiting for 4 years to develop very expensive housing with a free flow of alcohol and drugs. We don't believe in the free flow of alcohol and drugs. We focus on recovery.
And if we look at the big picture, what do you think is the biggest issue facing the country right now?
Division, families disintegrate or burn every bridge. I think we're in danger of our entire country dissolving in our dividedness.
That's why it is so important today that we reaffirm our character as a nation. People drawn from every corner of the world, every color, every religion, every background, bound by a creed as old as our founding, e pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one.
America is a nation of nations, a country welded together from fractured identities that live on in its manifold citizens, never truly merging but still improbably holding together as one. This coming together of many parts that form the whole is emblazoned on their currency as the slogan "E pluribus unum," out of many, one. The plurality of American identities goes beyond just ethnicity and language and into politics. Americans appear more fractured than ever.
I really thought that COVID, after our suffering from all of that it would have unified people a lot more of going through all of this, the separation, the loss of jobs, just everything shutting down, that people would become more close. Now it's just they're acting dog eat dog, and it's going back the same way as it was before. The haves, the have-nots, and if I don't have, I'm going to get yours. But I thought it would pull people tighter together, and it really didn't. I think people are tired of the government. They're tired of the politics. They're tired of all these people that make our decisions for us and doing it inappropriately. We deserve so much better out of our politicians. They're so self-centered and what they can do for them and their buddies and their backers. They don't give a shit about us, and it's obvious.
I think a two-party system needs to change because these politicians are so at each other. When the two parties started calling each other names and fighting, it really lost my attention personally.
Oh, we got two political parties. It doesn't make a lot of sense, a lot of things. I mean, I was out of the country for 24 years. I came back, and it's a hot mess here. In Europe, you sit down at a cafe table, you can talk about whatever you want, everything's a discussion. Here, you got to take a side. Either you're conservative or you're liberal, and all of them are bad.
I think basically everyone needs to back off just a bit. You know, it's like you've got a tremendous tension. What I've usually found is when you've got people who are that polarized, if everyone backs off their position just a bit, everything gets better. It's like in a family where everyone's arguing at each other, and it's sort of like, stop, everyone, back off just a bit, and everything usually will get better.
Today's most heated American battlefields are those of the vicious culture wars, waged over issues like trans rights, drag queens, and the sexual education of minors in schools.
I do not wish to put my child in the public school system in California. I would like my daughter to be homeschooled. In the state of California, they are pushing radical beliefs on children within the public school system. They're teaching young children about transgenderism. I understand the point behind it. They want everybody to be accepting of everybody, but you do not teach young children about sexuality. You wait until they're at least in junior high school.
People fear the unknown, but now that drag, has become such mainstream because of RuPaul's Drag Race and its popularity, we were in the margins, and now we still are, but now there's more visibility. And before, people who didn't like us could just ignore us, but now we're everywhere. We're on TV, we're on podcasts, we're in libraries and museums. We're taking over the world, and they just can't handle it.
Persia of San Francisco's Bay Area was one of the very first drag queens to read stories to children. The Drag Story Hour events have since spread across the nation, and in many places they have been targeted by far-right extremists.
And it's a very touchy subject for me in particular, because I am an educator and because I am a drag performer.
Are you more afraid of extremist violence than before?
Yes, but just because I'm afraid does not mean that I'm gonna stop doing what I do. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what they want. They wanna just instill fear on us and then make us disappear. But guess what? We look fabulous, we're amazing, and we're not going anywhere. So, like I always say, you can be in a dark box, but glitter always shines, no matter how small it is. So, no matter how dark it gets, we're still gonna shine. So, bring it.
Transphobia and hatred of drag queens may be the newly fashionable bigotries filling the gutters of social media. But the old bigotry of racism never went away.
The race relations, I think, have taken a big back step. Remember, I'm 62, so where I grew up, everybody was a different mixture of race, religion. It was a fabulous mixture, and things have just changed, and I'm not quite sure why, but I think people have separated each other more than any other time that I've seen in history. I don't quite get it. I think people are just people.
I was taking a bus, a train ride, and there was a lady. She says, I don't talk to the ends, the word. She was talking to the Latino people, she talked to the Japanese people, but she wouldn't talk to me because of my skin color. She despised me because of my skin color. And that was the first encounter I had I've been here all my life. I've never experienced that in Los Angeles. Because this is a melting pot where people come from all over to be something. And so I said, we really have gone backwards. How dare the racist people come out of the closet? Ever since Donald Trump, they're all coming out. They just feel free to come out and be racist.
I find it appalling people are still racist. We're so mixed blood these days. I'm a mud baby myself. We're so mixed blood. There's no reason for all this bullshit.
I think ultimately in this country, what divides people is religion and politics. I mean, I can't relate to the racial issues because me being from Chicago, we're not divided by race like that. We are a very segregated city. So even though our city is segregated, we don't look at each other racially. But no matter where you go in this country, two things. Religion, politics. That is what creates the most divisiveness in this country.
America is, we're tribal. I can't say there are just two sides. Most of it had to do with the former president and his rhetoric. I don't think there's been a president in the United States of America that's caused such a great divide. Whether you like Mr. Trump or not, it's the truth.
He brought a whole new face to politics. He is not a politician, he's a businessman. That's why he speaks the way he speaks. Donald Trump made more people who never really cared about politics become involved. He really changed the game.
Americans are diverse not just in their backgrounds and political beliefs, but in the way they perceive the world around them. Their shared reality has splintered to the point that I could not quite believe that all the people I interviewed still live in the same country.
I have to say I have a hard time defending the liberal stance because it's so violent. When I first came back, I mean, all the riots and stuff and burning city, towns, and all the stuff, calling mostly peaceful demonstration. I mean, come on.
What we saw on January 6th in America should never have happened, and hopefully it will never happen again. As the January 6th Commission determined, all of it was caused by one person, and that person just happened to be the former president, Mr. Donald Trump.
Yes, you probably could make conservatives violent, but if you ever got them violent enough, that you would probably have a big problem. Because most conservatives are people that have assets, that have families, that have values. I mean,
so you say conservatives haven't been violent yet. What about January 6th?
To be honest, a bunch of old people with signs going into a government building, which they probably paid for. I mean, nobody, ever took over a government without a gun, so that's kind of an interesting thing. I sat there for months watching, cities being, attacked by Antifa and Black Lives Matter and everybody else, breaking down stuff, interrupting all the people trying to work to feed their families. And what? That's peaceful demonstration. A bunch of old people with signs march on the Capitol, people that pay taxes, and this is an insurrection. Come on.
Some people have been afraid of a second American Civil War.
Well, with 430 million firearms in public hands, I would say that it won't be a long war. Because there are certain segments of the population, 1 or 2%, that cause more than half of all the crimes. And it wouldn't take long for a very angry portion of America to eliminate them.
We see these beautiful pictures at night. I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, "I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons."
Hollywood relishes the spectacle of fictional violence, but America is home to a great deal of very real, everyday violence. At home, Americans experience school shootings in small, all-American towns, and police brutality and gang violence in major cities. Abroad, the Americans hone their craft of airstrikes on small desert nations. Violence is America's most beloved product and its #1 export. The civilian population in America is the most heavily armed in history, and American military bases and aircraft carriers can launch deadly violence on just about anyone in any corner of the globe. Nothing is as American as the unmatched ability to devastate one's fellow man with supreme firepower.
I'm very pro-military power. Sorry. In other words, you've got to be able to defend your own country. You know, this idea that you can be in a world that's as dangerous as it is now and not have the ability to defend yourself is not good.
Well, America has always been the one that has to step in and get involved with other people's beef, as we call it, other people's issues between each other. We've always been the big brother, and I think we always will be. I don't necessarily agree with that because when other countries, have problems with each other, it costs us as taxpayers money. Sometimes we need to not get involved where it's not our business. But America has always been that big brother. I mean, if we wouldn't have stepped in for the Nazis, they could have dominated the world.
We Europeans are often ungrateful to the Americans. When wars are fought far from our shores, we like to put on morally superior airs about our peaceful ways. But when in 2022 Russia launched its great invasion of Ukraine, once more we Europeans had to rely on American arms and willpower.
I'm really happy that they got off their ass and started helping Ukraine. The man's a savage beast. And
Putin?
Yeah, he's just an animal. It's nothing other than a man's fragile ego wanting to prove how much of a man he is, and man, I think he's an evil son of a bitch.
I think this country, whether it likes it or not, I think it's the leadership role, definitely. Leadership goes to people and countries who are willing to be leaders. And if you're always going to be a following country, you're never going to be a leader. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. And this country has always been willing to grit its teeth and lead. Look, it's one of our better traits. But I don't think you'll ever, in history, find another people who've been anywhere near as generous with their lives, their talents, their money as the United States of America. I think that's just slam dunk.
This European ungratefulness stems from a deep sense of inferiority. We Europeans are painfully aware that European peace for most of the past century has been bought with American arms, cash, and blood. As obsessed as America is about keeping the world safe, it's a strange paradox just how unsafe the United States can be for its average citizen. One need not look very far to find Americans whose lives have been touched by violence.
Growing up in an inner city neighborhood in the United States, specifically Chicago, is certainly rough. I've lost a lot of friends due to street activities. I have another friend, his name, well, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was called Negro. And, he was walking down the street at night and a car full of ops, his opposition, caught him walking down the street and they chased him into a dark alley and they beat him with bats. And his head, when he was in the hospital, this was over here. His whole head was split open. They tried to operate, and the next morning he was gone. I've been jumped. I have a scar in my hand, so I've personally experienced it. But I've lost a lot of good friends. It's just part of life. America has a lot of mass shootings. You're not safe anywhere anymore. You go to school and get shot. You can go to church and get shot. You can go to Walmart and get shot.
With every school shooting and massacre, the topic of gun control pops up in American media, but nothing ever gets done about it, despite a majority of Americans supporting some form of reform for the nation's gun laws. For many, the gun debate cuts into the heart of what it means to be an American. The right to defend oneself with a firearm is seen as sacrosanct.
Guns don't kill people, bullets and assholes do. And I mean, they want to disarm everybody. Look, they disarm decent, good people, then crazed maniac bullies with weapons run around doing whatever they want. We need to stay armed. We'll call the police. Shoot, sometimes call PD, they don't even show up. And it takes 45 minutes. Wait, don't do anything, wait till they get there. Screw that. If somebody walks, if I'm in my house and somebody breaks in, I'm shooting the motherfucker. Sorry.
Much of the debate centers around the AR-15, the favored instrument of school shooters and mass murderers nationwide.
I own guns, but I really believe that the semi-automatic guns that have been used in so many tragic shootings, public, massacres in Oregon, I don't think that they should be legal for general citizen use. It seems like that gun's only meant to do as much harm as possible. So I do disagree with semi-automatic and fully automatic that have been modified guns to be available for any Joe Schmo, anyone off the street. It's just crazy. Our gun problem, it's something that unheard of anywhere else in the world.
Vicious political divisions and an ample supply of weapons can be a recipe for the ruin of nations. The nightmare of a second American Civil War looms large in the imaginations of many, but most people I talk to still believe in the survival of this American experiment.
Yeah, I mean, all these guns have been around for hundreds of years. And back in the day, even like half a century ago, 60 years ago, 40 years ago even, a lot of those weapons you weren't even required to register. So, whatever they say that's on the books, whatever, 200, 300, 400 million, whatever the number may be, in actuality it's probably 3-4 times that. You see what I mean? If something like that was going to occur, I think it would have happened a long time ago. If you live in Finland, in some small village with zero crime, why would you want a weapon? But when you live in a major U.S. city where people are shooting each other every day, and you live in a not so fancy, not so plush neighborhood, you may consider sometimes a weapon to defend yourself in your house. Yeah, it's even though it's a good place to live, I think the crime here is pretty rampant nowadays. It happens every single day: robberies, murders, home invasions, things like. The statistics. But still, it's a great country. I love it. It's a great place to live. I would live here rather than just about anywhere else on earth.
Oh, I don't think there will be a civil war like that. The country is practically structured differently. Occasionally you get people saying, well, this state is going to succeed from the union, etc. But there's just too much interconnections, I think, really. Not just family or anything, but I think more importantly, just economic. It's like one state really can't go it alone, even though things can get bad. As I said, I remember the late 60s in this country, and I think that was definitely worse. We had people rioting in the streets. It was much worse, and we got through it. It was a rough time, but we did get through it. And I think we'll get through this too.
The problem is the rhetoric and the way that people talk about it. There are groups of them and their followers who talk about it almost not excitedly, but it's a matter of time. And if you're not ready, you're just playing ignorant and you're hiding your head under a rock or whatnot. I'm fearful because I have heard people just talk about being ready.
The majority of us do not want civil war and believe that we're not going to have it because we understand what that is. And the people who want to have a civil war, their information is built on conspiracy theories. I'm optimistic for the future. My future, my individual future, and the future of the younger generation and America as a whole and the rest of the world. We can exist. We can't just be an island in the world. We need our allies and we need the world to be, to just be better. All of these things I see with Mr. Putin and Ukraine and what's going on in Iran, and what's going on in Afghanistan with the Taliban outlawing education for women. All of these things that's happening in the 21st, it's all been done before. It doesn't work. Your greatest resource in any nation are your people. All of them. Not the diamonds, not the gold, not the oil, not the currency. It is your people. Because without your people, those things are just things. America's not perfect. There's not a perfect government. There's not a perfect nation. But hopefully we're all trying. So let's learn from history. And let's learn from one another and be greater as the higher order species of animals on the planet. Let's just try to get along better.
It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they maligned so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. Because I'm not a nigger. I'm a man.
The first Americans arrived on the continent from across the Bering Strait, many thousands of years ago. But the rest of humanity would not let those first settlers keep this land to themselves. The branching descendants of the first humans out of Africa reunited for the first time when the Norsemen founded their short-lived settlements in what is today the northeastern coast of Canada. Centuries later came the Spaniard, the English and the other Europeans to found their settlements and colonies. Came the enslaved Africans, snatched from their homelands to farm America's cotton. Came the Chinese laborers to build America's railroads. Came the Italians to build America's skyscrapers. Came the Irish to police America. Came the South Asians to lead their Silicon Valley companies. The stream of humans flowing into this land seems never-ending.
Have you lived in Seattle all your life? Or
I'm from Bulgaria originally.
Oh, okay.
I moved here when I was 18 years old. And I've
Okay,
been
so
here ever since. Yeah, I think the quality of life has decreased in the United States since I've been here in the last 23 years. The social climate is very volatile, which was not really so when I moved here. You know, it was actually a pretty easygoing place where everybody got along very well.
Do you think it's because of politics or why?
Oh, of course, certainly. I mean, if you leave people alone to their own devices outside of propaganda and things like that, you will find out, just like anywhere else in the world, that people get along very well. And especially in a country like the United States, you know, I mean, this is a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic community since basically day one.
What America is we are settled from people all over the world. I recommend the major cities. Now, if you start going down south, the way of life is very laid back. People are more polite. They move slower. They take their time. Here on the West Coast, I felt like when I came out here, I almost moved to a different country. It's very liberal here. America is a melting pot in general, but every region in this country you go, you're gonna notice the differences of people, whether you go to the East Coast, the South, the Midwest, the Northwest, the Southwest. Here, California is really its own world. Ultimately, this country is a melting pot, and that's what makes it great.
This country is too vast to face alone. The first Americans knew this. Before the arrivals of the Europeans and their social order, the cultural fiber of America was based on the tribe, a community of people united in living off the land. I spoke to Native Americans on an assignment to Long Beach, LA, where they had gathered for their annual powwow event.
Can you tell us about your regalia?
Yeah, this is the fancy dance regalia, and in our powwow here, I've danced here when I was younger and later organized the powwow, so I really haven't worn my regalia a lot. This is the regalia that we made, my mom, family, and other friends back in the 1970s. I keep really good care of it. I take good care of it.
This is the 50th anniversary you've been doing this?
Yes, yes, yeah. So the thing is that, American Indian Studies started here in the Cal State University system. We're the first American Indian Studies program. So the first powwow was just a few families here, and it was the families of the students that were going here. A lot of those grandkids and great-grandkids that are out there, it's their ancestors or relatives that started this powwow. And they were there to support and encourage American Indian students, right, to go to college. So we have songs about that, songs to encourage you to finish and complete your education.
Some of these first Americans still call themselves Indians, even though that is a name given by outsiders, based on Columbus's mistake. In Seattle, I met Arlie Neskahi, a singer of the Diné people. He told me that his very tribe is better known by a name given to it by outsiders.
The majority of my people, they still use the term that was given to us by others, which is the Navajo Nation. My personal self, my first identity is as a member of the Diné Nation. In our language, we have a term for us, who we are. It's called Nihokot, the earth surface people. When I talk to people in today's society, I will say I'm Native American. I'm Native, and I'm also part of American society. But the word Native to me still has a meaning that we are born. I am born of this land. As in our creation stories, we come from this earth, and this earth is us, and we are of this earth. When I grew up as a kid, I called myself Indian. When I got to school and found out about Columbus, then I knew right away it was a mistake. I began to learn then who we were. I asked my dad one time, what does Navajo mean? And he said, I don't know. And I said, what? He said, no, I don't know. Why? He says, because it's not our word. Then he said, our word, we call ourselves Diné. So then, ever since I learned that from my father, I was probably in my early teens, then I started leaning towards that.
Americans are always wrestling with language, perhaps as a way to process guilt. And it is the natives and the black Americans who, with their stubborn existence, remind them of their guilt. This they can never forgive, because they cannot forget the original sin of this country's founding, that this country was built on stolen land with stolen labor.
It seems to be almost like a spiritual wound. When you're living on lands that originally were not your own, and you took them by means that were brutal and that were savage, and through acts of genocide towards my people, it's hard to meet us. It's hard to see us. It's hard to hear our voice. And so these people I was talking to today, they were black people who worked for the city. And they said, yeah, it's kind of the same way with our people, got stolen from other lands. And gosh, all the people here who enslaved our people, they got free labor. They got free labor to build a whole society. And I said, yeah, that same thing right there. There's a wound that exists deep inside, I believe, near the spirit. And it's hard to face that. It's what do you do about that? Part of it has been to try to cover it with the glory of America and all that it is and all those things. But I always tell people we're the conscience of America, because we always know the truth, and we know what actually happened.
Do you feel bitterness towards white Americans about what was done to your ancestors and other natives here?
I went to public school on our reservation. So this was in the 60s. So it was a public school on our reservation. They taught classic American history. In fact, when Thanksgiving would come around, we dressed like the Pilgrims and the Indians. It's so crazy to even think about it. It's just so bizarre when I think back to those days. It's like surrealistic. It wasn't until I went to college that the professors at college where I went began to tell the truth. And they brought out the reality of all the atrocities and massacres and things that happened to our people. And it was at that point, then, oh my gosh, if you would have been around me, it'd been a different story at that time. I was very angry. I was very furious. I had hate. and for what happened to our people. And I'll tell you what happened was I got connected to our culture and our cultural ways and teachings. I'm very glad for that. And during that time, then I was able to begin to attend ceremonies. What I saw when I went to ceremonies, I saw our elders praying and putting down offerings in a sacred way. And they would pray for all the people. And they would pray for the white people too. Then I got mad again. What are you doing? Don't you remember what they did to us? How can you do that? And I remember I was disgusted and walking out of those ceremonies the first time I saw that, like, oh man, what's going on here? This is crazy. But I was drawn to it, and I went back and I saw again the vision in the mind that our elders had, the desire for harmony and balance in all things, for all. And that changed me. I'm very glad for that. Because had I not been exposed to that, who knows? I might be gone now, you know. Could have died in some kind of crazy violent way, probably doing violence to others.
America tried very hard to eradicate the traces of its native heritage by forcibly educating native children in school where their hair was cut and their tribal languages banned. They failed, however, and today Arlene Escahi and other tribal elders educate their younger generations about their heritage. I witnessed one such event in a Seattle school building.
All right, so we're going to just sing a song or two, and then we'll go over and we'll have Nancy's getting our stuff ready to work on.
So these are real short, pretty easy to learn.
After letting slip that it was my birthday, I was treated to the worst nightmare of every Finnish person, the milk of human kindness freely offered by strangers.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, Lassi. Happy birthday to you,
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
The capacity to dream is a cornerstone of our universal human nature, but it is also a quintessentially American virtue. Americans hold within their hearts a virtually inexhaustible wellspring of dreams, which flows against all odds and reason. Unburdened by cynicism, Americans continue to dream of a better tomorrow. It is their national ethos. The American dream is a concept brimming with an almost mystical appeal, even to a foreigner like me.
Of course, I believe in the American dream, absolutely. And it really goes back to that JFK statement. Ask not what your country can do for you, but rather what you can do for your country. I think you should leave things better than you find them. Everything. Your world, your house, aisle that you're shopping on, your life. Leave it better than how you found it. So yes, I believe in the American dream, but I believe it's up to each generation and to each of us as citizens to bring that dream to life, because America holds no one back. I always say this, life is about two things in America: choice and opportunity. Now around the world, a lot of people don't get opportunity, but they certainly get choice. But in America, you get both.
There's sort of this idea that you can always reinvent yourself in America. You know, you don't have great lineages, dukedoms, earldoms, that sort of thing. It's a country where so many people can really do well. It's a country, literally, that people have reinvented themselves. So I think that's one of the things that's in common with America. It's a very sort of egalitarian, this idea that if you work hard and you try and apply yourself, you can be better. No one is going to arbitrarily hold you down. It's really a great country. I can't tell you how much I love it.
Still believe in the American dream?
Absolutely. So these people who come here for the American dream, even though we're struggling with our inflation as a society, we're still better off than a lot of the world. When they come here, they still find themselves happier because they have more opportunities. And even though our society is not thriving as much as it once was, there's still a lot of opportunities here. Keep a broad mind for the United States of America. We are a great country. Ultimately, Americans are good people. Not all of us are what you see on the news. And for anybody that wants to come here, I wish you well.
I think the American dream for me is just waking up every day, trying to be happy, trying to find a good use of my energy. I get up pretty easy. I just feel good. I love the game of life. I'm not the best at it, but I'll never get a high score, but I'm going to keep playing every day. I'm not sure if Americans have almost a Hollywood ideal or expectation of what happiness or what their lives should be. You see in media and Hollywood, well, this is what happiness looks like, or this is what love looks like, or this is what wealth looks like, and I'm not sure if that creates a false reality.
I think the American dream is very much a real thing. The great thing about this place is that if you work hard, if you have a little bit of smarts, whether it's book smarts or street smarts, or you just have like a savvy entrepreneurial spirit, you can go all the way here. So that's what I like about it. The sky's the limit here. The opportunities are wide open. This is a country that incentivizes business ownership. So yeah, I think it's a very fair system where, and you see it all the time. There are people that come here from, Namibia and are millionaires in like 2 years. I think that it's easier here to make a dream happen just about anywhere else in the world.
The American dream? Well, everybody's entitled to their American dream. My American dream is to just be happy. Most people believe the American dream is to be rich. I don't believe that. I think that being happy is dream enough, and not wanting and sharing. That's perfect for me.
Do you believe in the American dream?
Not really. To be honest with you, I just don't. No, I don't even know what the American dream is. The white picket fence, the husband and the dog and the children. Nah, that's a fantasy. No. And this is the land of make-believe. Everybody's got their cross to bear and their issues. Everybody. I mean, there's people who are really big time and they make a lot of money and they go kill themselves. Like, what's that all about? So my issue is like, I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm not trying to be homeless. I'm just trying to survive and be happy, and I want everybody to feel joy in their heart.
The moral foundation of the American dream is the idea that everyone has an equal opportunity to pursue their own fortune in America. This idea clashes with the realities of class and generational wealth. Not everyone gets to succeed, even when they work their hardest.
Well, growing up on the reservation as a kid in the 60s, of course, I heard about the American Dream, and I'd watch the TV screen, and I'd see suburban houses with white picket fences and all of that. And then I'd look at where I lived. Like, we didn't have that. As I grew older, went to school, I became a very good student. I was a scholar, and I was also an athlete. I was the captain of all my athletic teams all the way through. I was the first chair position in band. I was in the National Honor Society. I was like the all-American boy. To me, then, hearing about this thing of American Dream, you know, you could be successful and have all this stuff to be, I was like, man, I'm set. I'm on my way. And I was ready to get into college and go through that. And so it was like, okay, let's go. But found out really quick, it's not materializing. And I found myself as a native man at a certain point with a small family to start to loathe myself, because I saw my friends that I graduated with having nice cars. I saw them even buying homes. I saw them beginning to accumulate wealth. I was raising 2 kids from paycheck to paycheck. What do they have that I don't have? Because I kicked their ass in school. I kicked their ass in class. know I'm smarter than them, and they never beat me in anything that we went to, but look at what's happening. So I didn't understand and had no training in the American system of wealth. It wasn't until later I married a lady who was an Anglo lady, and I learned from her one day. She got a call. She was all excited, and so she was talking really frantically, and I said, "Who is that?" "Oh, it's my sister." "What are you guys talking about? You sound pretty concerned." She goes, "Yeah, our auntie died away. Our auntie passed away." "Oh, okay. Well, are you guys really kind of arguing or whatever?" She goes, "Well, our auntie was really rich, so we're trying to figure out who's the favorite because we know they're probably going to get her inheritance." Whoa, so I learned really quickly about inheritance, and it's a big serious deal. We don't have inheritances. I'm not going to really pass any wealth, money down to my children. My children are in a place where a couple of them have the opportunity because they have purchased homes, and I tell them that, whoa, you guys have done something that I never did, and you have a chance to break a cycle of poverty by this wealth system that America has. This wealth system that was passed down through generations. That's when I found out. That's how these mainly white boys were able to then accumulate and acquire and begin to build all this collateral and stuff, to build upon. And once I understood that, it was very helpful to me. Then I was able to unwind myself from the shame and understand, wow, there's a wealth system that's at play here. For my people, especially for our men, that's one of the triggers that kind of leads into desperation and depression and also despair and addictions and things like that. How come, So as I did that, then I realized that the likelihood of me having the American dream probably wasn't going to happen.
When Europeans first colonized this land, they encountered among its native population a lifestyle and social order they themselves had lost thousands of years ago. To the children of European serfdom, the life of the hunter-gatherer was one of radical freedom and equality.
The American dream, to me, has a lot of its roots in us as indigenous people. Because when the people came from the other land, they came from thousands of years of living under empires. And so they had kings and other people who dictated their lives and what they could do, what they couldn't do. When they came here, then they found us. We're just living. And when we fought, they were surprised. Who's your king? Who are you fighting for? Ourselves. For our homes. What? No. Who's your king? Who's your sovereign? No, we're just fighting for our homes. We live over there. And so that basic, you almost call it existential freedom, that basic initial sovereignty of living, determining your life, is what I think inspired then the people to like, wow, we want something like that too. And it is possible. We can live without a king.
There is something about this country that wears one down. It bears down on you so relentlessly. The more time I spend here, the harder it is to form an opinion about America. Every dimension of human potential is explored here, all the beauty and brutality of what a country can be. During my travels, I often slipped into a state of unproductive NY. The enormity of the task at hand overwhelmed me, and I questioned why I had undertaken it. What hope is there in capturing the national character of such a great nation in any one documentary? I pursue something that defies definition. I find myself akin to a piece of driftwood, hoping that the ocean will one day carry me to where I need to be. But it never will. The ocean does not care. Perhaps realizing this is what made the Americans so successful, that they alone are the masters of their destinies. To accept such radical freedom takes a degree of madness, an irrational hope for a better tomorrow. Against all rhyme and reason within their hearts persists that dreadful and resplendent American hope.
The past few days, when I've been at that window upstairs, I've thought a bit of the shining city upon a hill, built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here.
I too could have been an American once. There was a branch in the path of my life where one different decision made by my parents could have resulted in myself and my family being Americans. Back when I was in, I don't even remember exactly, in elementary school, I think, my parents talked about an opportunity that my father might have had to get a job here in Oregon, in the United States. Nothing ever came of it, and to this day I don't really know if it was a serious opportunity, but I often wonder what it would be like to meet myself from that alternate dimension where we moved to Oregon, where we became Americans. While walking the streets of Portland, I entertained daydreams about meeting this different self of mine with a different life behind them, my American self. What would that person be like, that Lassi Lapintie who grew up into adulthood in America, whose formative years were spent perhaps in this very city, in Portland? What would he look like? What would he believe in? Would he hold the same liberal or vaguely leftist beliefs as my European self? Or would he be a well-armed Christian conservative, or perhaps an equally well-armed radical anarchist? Is a man's character more based on nature or nurture? Did America shape Americans? Or was it the other way around? Did Americans shape America? America reflects the world as the world reflects America. The United States is, after all, a nation of nations, the one true cosmopolitan society of our age. American exceptionalism is the idea that the United States holds a special place in the world and a special responsibility over its future. This idea has brought forth a number of great calamities and blessings for the rest of the world. What America sows, the world reaps, the fruits of both good and evil. The idea of American exceptionalism is encapsulated in the saying, oft quoted by politicians, that America is the city on the hill and the light of the world, who must lead by example as the leader of the free world. Even after a lifetime of observing the United States from afar and for a few months from up close, I could not say conclusively if I believe that the American empire has been a net positive or a net negative influence on this world. The scope of American power is so large that it renders such simple judgments insufficient. An empire has many faces, both good and evil. Malicious American crimes and blunders, like the wars in Iraq and Vietnam, and the many sins of the United States in Latin America, have left a hateful legacy upon this earth. Yet, despite all that darkness, I cannot in my heart imagine that the world would be a better place without America or the Americans in it. I wonder if, 2000 years ago, some traveler of the Roman Empire had these same ambivalent feelings towards the superpower of his day. That despite all the brutality, violence, and injustice inherent in the imperial system, perhaps it was all worth it to keep the chaos at bay, that perhaps the alternatives were worse. I left America none the wiser than when I arrived. 5 months as an expat is not enough to understand such a vast country. 5 lifetimes would not be enough. I only know this. The American people I talked to during my travels were some of the wisest, kindest, and most fascinating people I have ever had the honor to encounter during my time on this earth. I still do not believe in America, but I believe in the Americans.